welcome to 3C. 3C is finding the composition of two functions. So we're getting out of graphing for a little bit, and now we're on compositions. First, I want to define what composition is. And this is composition is the substituting substitute one function into another function. So this 3C is all about substitution. So example 1, this is kind of what you did some of this in Algebra 1. Composition of the functions are, so here we have f of x equals the cube root of 4x. And what on the right here, what does this f of 2 mean? F of 2 is how we say that. What that means, if you look, where the x value is over here on the left of the function, well, instead of x, it's 2, so this means x equals 2. So what you're going to do is you take 2 and you substitute it into the x value of the function. So f of 2 equals the cube root of 4 times, instead of the x here, you put in a 2. Now we just simplify the right side. So the left side, this is math notation, saying that when the x is 2, the x is 2, the y, which is everything, f of 2, that's y, equals, and we simplify the right side. 4 times 2 is 8, and the cube root of 8 is 2. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, so the cube root of 8 is 2. So this is the final answer. F of 2 is 2. So when x equals 2, that must mean the y is also equal to 2. Moving on. Let's get on to some more Algebra 2 stuff here. You're going to see some notation in Algebra 2. I call it fog, pog, and goth. Not really, that's not how you say it, but fog here, f of g. This is how you pronounce it as f of g. And pog is h of g. Goth, you probably already guessed it, g of f. So you're composing these. You're going to have two different functions. You're going to have function f g, or h g, or g and f. And you're going to have to substitute one into the other. Let's get started. Oh, over here, FYI, for your information, you can also see f of g of x written with parentheses. This is the same thing as f of g of x. So when you see parentheses, you always do the innermost parenthesis first. The g of x is what you would substitute into the f function. Moving on. So we have two different functions. We have f of a function and g of a function. And you are going to be composing. You're going to have f function of g function. And you're going to put -7 in for the functions. First, I always just start right to left on these. So I'm going to take the -7 and I'm going to substitute that -7 into the g functions variables. So I'm going to pick the g function right up here. So g of a equals a squared plus a. So I'm going to take, instead of the a, I'm going to write -7 in the g function. So -7 equals -7 squared plus -7. Simplify this right side. -7 squared is 49 plus -7 is 42. That's what g of -7 is. Okay, so I'm halfway through this problem. I substituted the -7 into g, and I got 42. So that's the g of -7. That equals 42. I now need to, so that's going to equal 42. I now need to substitute that into the f function. So I need to substitute 42 into the f function. So I'm going to write the f function, f of a, equals -3a plus 4. I'm going to substitute 42 now in for this a into all of the a's in the function. 42 plus 4, and negative 3 times 42 is 120, negative 126, plus 4 is negative 122. So we say f of g of negative 7, that's going to equal negative 122. That is your final answer, negative 122. Moving on. Sometimes instead of a number, we have variables, like x here. So you have f of x and g of x. You have two different equations, two different functions. And we see f of g of x, and up top, the example 2, we saw f of g of negative 7. So instead of putting negative 7 in now, we substitute x in. Well, if you look at the g of x, there's already an x in g of x. So you don't have to substitute anything there. So we literally are taking the g of x, and just write it down. And what we're going to do, since we already know what g of x equals, we know this equals x minus 3, we're going to substitute that into the f function's variable. So we're going to take the g of x, which equals x minus 3, and we're going to substitute that into the f function's variable. So we take the f of x. So instead of x, we are going to substitute in x minus 3. So the f of x minus 3 equals negative 3 times, so where the x is, you're going to substitute in x minus 3. So where this x is, that gets substituted in for x minus 3. Simplify this. You can distribute negative 3x. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. Subtract 5. Don't forget that on the outside. And f of x minus 3 equals, simplify it further, negative 3x plus 4. So in the end, this is what I'm looking for. That is the answer. So f of g of x equals negative 3x plus 4. That's your final answer. Alright, last example. Sometimes instead of a number or just a variable, you actually have an expression. So in this case, we have 3n. So we have f of g of 3n. So like the other ones where we had, up top here we had negative 7. We're substituting in negative 7, or here substituting in x. Down here we're going to be substituting in 3n. So what are we going to substitute in first? Into the g function. So g of 3n. So g of 3n equals, substitute into both, or all of the variables. In this case, there's two of them. So you have 3n squared minus, and there's another n. So that's going to be another 3n. So I substitute that in, simplify it. 3n squared is 3n times 3n, which is 9n squared. Subtract 3n. Those are not like terms, can't put them together. So that is what g of 3n equals, 9n squared minus 3n. I'm now going to take that, and I am going to use that to substitute in for the n in the f function. So I'm going to take the f function, and instead of n, I'm going to put in 9n squared minus 3n. So for the n, I'll put 9n squared minus 3n, and then plus 3. So that's n for this n right here. And then we simplify this. So f of 9n squared minus 3n equals, simplifying this, you can drop the parentheses, there's nothing, no multiplication with it. It's just a plus 3 on the outside, and plus 3 does not, there's no like terms with it. So in the end, f of g of 3n is 9n squared minus 3n plus 3. Okay, your quiz that you're going to be walking into when you walk into class is find f of g of x. And I will tell you the answer. I would like you to, so the answer is 2x plus 7. What I would like you to do is you're going to have to show me some work how to get f of g of x to look like 2x plus 7. So show Show me some work. Show me those skills. Alright, come to class with questions.